Welcome to the EchoCast, episode 81, The Pentagon Explained. I am Bond Diesel. This is a rough recording. You'll probably hear a baby in the background, but this is my life now, and I'm just doing my best. That said, this is a podcast about the Division 2, its community updates, news, and my opinions on all of those things. So let's get started. Today I will talk about the State of the Game recap, my thoughts on the state of the game, the Pentagon thoughts and reaction, as well as other things, some listener questions, personal and content updates. If you would like to support the podcast and my other content, please check out patreon.com/theechocast or look up my merch on Design by Humans by looking up Bond Diesel. I do want to welcome Dark Knight as the newest patron of the EchoCast. I want to thank Christian, DJ, Darren, Gray, Hassan, Joe, Jose, Luis, Mike, Ozzy, and Tim for helping support the show and helping me continue to be able to do all of these things, especially this podcast. Okay, so State of the Game recap. I will try to quickly recap what was in the State of the Game and then kind of give my opinion as things went. Okay, so today we had Hamish, Yannick, Thylander, and they were talking about episode 2 and more specifically about the Pentagon and the new specialization. They did throw out there pretty quickly that episode 2 will release on October 15th and that the narrative parts will be available to everyone who doesn't have the season pass on the 22nd. Season pass holders will get the missions on the 15th. They'll get the specialization instantly, and they will get exclusive access to the classified missions. There are 2 new missions that make up the new Pentagon update, which will first involve establishing a safe house, and then a first mission where you're trying to stop the Black Tusk from getting into the Pentagon, and then a second mission where you will be fighting down in the basements of the Pentagon in the DARPA labs where the Black Tusk are trying to steal some type of technology. There's 2 new classified missions. One is the Marina supply route, and another is the embassy crash site with, guess what, a crashed helicopter. The raid was announced that it has been delayed, and I actually didn't pick this up until after the stream, but it's been delayed until 2020. So what I'm going to guess is that the raid is going to release with title update. I don't know, it's going to be probably either 7 or 8, and episode 3, which will be the New York update. Then the last thing they talked about quite a bit was the new specialization. It's called the Technician. They have access to a multi-targeted missile launcher. I believe it looked like it had 6 barrels. EMP grenades, a new hive mod, and some unique talents in the skill tree. Then the last thing they talked about was that there is a free weekend from the 17th of October through the 21st. There was some other stuff they talked about, but honestly, it was mostly stuff that they've talked about the last few weeks. So I decided to skip it. Okay, so my thoughts. Okay, so here we go. The Pentagon missions. So what I'll say about the Division 2 is that I think it's a good game. I think they've released good content with it. But the problem is I think that there's just been lots of missed opportunities. I really think that we are maybe facing the consequences of getting a free year one, getting all this content for quote unquote free. And I think that, when you do that, it just doesn't allow for the scope of the updates like what we got in Division 1, which was a paid season pass, or paid DLC if you went piece by piece. And what I think is interesting about that is, like, you look at this Pentagon thing, and before the game even came out, I think when they announced the DLCs, I believe before the game even released, I remember saying, like, hey, this Pentagon, like, that is an opportunity for Underground 2.0. And my guess is that was probably the intent at one point. But for whatever reason, that's not what we got. And instead what we got, it basically amounts to 2 story missions. And my honest reaction to it is cool. I like story missions. We didn't get a single new story mission after the game released in Division 1 for 3 years. So, awesome. The problem is that I felt like when they announced Division 2 and talked about the updates, there was this conversation of, new game modes and new maps, or new game modes and new missions, new story missions, and expansion of the map and stuff like that. And what you do by making this new quote-unquote game mode, it's not a game mode. The Pentagon is kind of like the expedition, except instead of 3 what are probably relatively simplistic and kind of boring little tasks that you do at the expedition, at the Pentagon, I imagine these will be fully like fleshed out like story missions, which is cool. I'm not going to complain about that. Obviously, that sounds awesome the first time, and maybe a few more times, but like there's just no replayability there. Now, I still will argue that there's plenty of replayability in the game. It's just people don't want to replay what's in the game, which is fine. Like, I get both sides of it. I know everyone wants the underground and survival back and all that. I'm actually not as keen about just getting rehashed content back. I really want new ideas and new stuff. But what I wasn't hoping for was just more missions. I love new missions. The classified missions are cool. The Zoo and the White Oak were awesome. I'm sure these 2 new Pentagon missions are going to be cool. But besides the Pentagon missions, there's no new activities, at least as far as we know. So my honest opinion is I'm sure these missions are going to be awesome. I'll play the crap out of them. I'll smile real big as I play them, and I'm gonna love it. But what the honest truth is 10 days later, when Modern Warfare comes out and Call of Duty, I don't know when I guess I'm sure I'll jump into Division here and there, but until Episode 3 comes out, unless there's stuff between Episode 2 and Episode 3 that they could release, which they very well may. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they do. I still think there's a specter of these seasons that were teased in the PTS, especially the global events. I just, I think that it's kind of a missed opportunity. But the thing is that people need to realize that like a mode like Underground was probably in development for most of the development of the Division 1. It's not like it just popped up out of nowhere. And so they knew that they weren't giving something like that to us for a while. She's talking to you. Little baby Diesel's part of the podcast this week. If this bothers you, I'm sorry. I'm watching her, and I'm not going to leave her alone. So, we'll you just get to hear some cooing in the background. The new Specialization, I think, looks really cool, and it looks like something I'm probably going to use pretty consistently. It looks like it actually has a special weapon that looks really fun to use. The EMP grenade will probably be really helpful, especially against the Black Tusk. And I think some of the little bonuses, like the 50% extra skill power just for using that Specialization, that changes my whole skill build. It makes it so I can put a lot more stuff into haste and things like that instead. So I think that's neat. I'm excited for the new Specialization. Looks fun. The classified missions, we don't know much about them, so I won't speculate too much. The first two classified missions that came out were okay, but not significant in my opinion. The last 2 that came out with Episode 1 were awesome, especially the NSA one. It went into a lot of background into even the first game, and I really, really liked it. For me, I think the Season Pass is worth it, even if it's just basically for the classified missions. I wouldn't say this for everybody. The early access is cool. The classified missions are cool. Are they worth $40 or whatever it was? It's up to you, but for me, yes. For you, maybe not, but that's up to you. The raid delay, it's one of those things where I think it's better late than never. I think it's better late and good than early and bad. It's a bummer for them to delay it, but I think it kind of is what it is. People wanted all this information about it. They're not going to, even in when it comes out, they're not going to tell us a bunch about it. It's going to be a surprise. That's the whole point. So the raid, kind of is what it is. I still need to find a group to do the last one. So maybe if you're on Xbox, let me know. And I know someone on Xbox has said that they would help me out, and I need to actually do it. So please don't hate me. But overall, it was another good state of the game. It's good, clear information. It's given us what we need. It's kind of funny that it was one spoiled by Uplay yesterday, and then spoiled by the trailer that came out like an hour early. It seems like maybe there is a lack of communication in that bureaucracy that is Ubisoft, unfortunately. But yeah, I think I'm excited for this update. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna keep playing Division. There's still a lot of things I want to do, and now there's gonna be all these named items to collect and the new exotic and all kinds of stuff. I'm still excited for the game. There's not like this big blockbuster smack in the face of awesomeness that everyone wants. I think that episode 3 is probably gonna be that. I believe I read somewhere that neither of these first 2 episodes were done by Massive, that they were done by other studios, which I've seen the collaborating studios listed for Division 2 as a whole, so I assume it's studios like Sophia and Leamington and stuff like that have done these or worked on them. I think maybe there's a point where maybe we need to just let Massive do all this stuff. Because I have a feeling that with episode 3 we're going to be like, oh yeah, the people who actually made this game did this, and hopefully that's going to be really cool. I think that Division 2 Year 2 is going to be a paid season pass type of deal. I think that they're really going to have to knock episode 3 out of the park to get people to even be half willing to pay for a season pass for this game. Despite the fact that I think the game is leaps and bounds further ahead than Division 1 ever really was, besides its extra content that is just a result of 3 years of being out. I think even though that Division 2 in general is a better game than Division 1 ever could be, it doesn't have the content. It doesn't have what people want. And I think that is going to make a Year 2 tough. Now, if episode 3 comes out, it's awesome, and then they say, here's the roadmap for Year 2. It's going to be $25. It's going to have Survival 2.0, Underground 2.0, Resistance 2.0, Last Stand returns to Conflict. All this stuff. I'm sure people would get hyped and buy it, and let's be straight up, I'm going to buy it either way. I'm sure I will. I have no doubt. But I think that episode 3 and the way that they handle the game between now and then is a big deal. Things like raising the gear score and things like that. Now that we have this new loot system and things, even I think that we need to bump it up to 600 or something like that, which I assume would require a new world tier, which I assume would require some big jump in content, which we haven't really gotten. And that episode 3 very well may be. My hope is that episode 1 and 2 were worked on by side studios before the game came out and since, and that episode 3 is what Massive has been focusing on since the game came out, other than their regular duties of fixing up the game and adding things that they're responsible for. But I don't know. I wish I was a fly on the wall in some conversations. I have a feeling that I really, as much or as little credit as people give, Massive and the CMs and stuff, I really think they're much more in tune. I have a feeling that if I could get any CMs on the record with their personal opinion, they would probably, at the very least, be understanding of where people are at with this. But I don't want to say I'm underwhelmed. I'm really excited for a bunch of the stuff that's coming with episode 2. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I just wish there was that one blockbuster thing where I could post on Twitter or make a YouTube video and be like, y'all need to come back for this. Where instead I'm like, yeah, there's going to be cool new stuff to do and new stuff to get and play with. But maybe we aren't at that big, the Forsaken moment quite yet, or the 1.4 or 1.8, patch quite yet. But we shall see. Another little side note, some stuff that came out this week was the Red Storm playtesting. They're doing a week-long playtest where they will accommodate people for a whole week to do playtesting at Red Storm. Now, they didn't clarify whether this is for Division 2 or for another game, potentially. They actually had a World War II poster advertising it. So my first thought was Brothers in Arms, but it's probably Division 2. So if you have the availability, if you're listening to this on Thursday or this week, I'm recording this on the 9th. If you have the availability, it starts the 14th through the end of that week. So, I actually, if I would have had maybe a month's notice about this, I probably would have applied. I'm sure I could have convinced Bay Diesel to let me go for a couple days. But, they announced it pretty short. I suspect maybe there's reasoning for that, but, whoever gets to go will be NDA'd out the wazoo, and we'll never quite know. So, yeah. So, yeah, check that out. If you go check out Red Storm on Twitter, they have a link there. And I bet if you go to their website, they probably have one there as well. And you know what else is there? Or what else is here? What else is everywhere? Mid-roll. Okay, so community topics and other discussion. I really didn't have a lot to talk about here. The first thing is kind of the back end of the Breakpoint release and the reception of Breakpoint. If you've been paying attention, the reviews weren't great. There were a few outlets that enjoyed it. There were definitely a bunch that didn't. Microtransactions were a big focus, as they tend to be. The whole Jim Sterling and Skill Up and Layman Gaming and a lot of the more enthusiastic YouTubers and stuff out there really focused on the microtransactions. They are silly, like, let's be honest, and it's kind of annoying how they were completely hidden from in the beta and stuff like that. The microtransactions are gross. Let's just make that really clear. The microtransactions are gross, and they aren't good. That said, the thing I don't like about complaining about the microtransactions is that you don't have to get them, and when you see everyone, all the people who I would call fanboys. Let me be clear. I believe I'm a fanboy of Division 2, so I'm not being negative calling people that. I'm just saying the way it seems. Because game recognizes game, as they say. It's such an easy thing for people to slough off and be like, well, I'm an adult and I don't buy those. If people want to buy them, then let them. It's a similar feeling as I've had about microtransactions in Division 1 and even 2. What I don't like about the whole microtransaction thing is that I think it just really distracts from the game itself and the just litany of issues the game has with just being, and I really do appreciate that there were a bunch of reviews. ACG, honestly, even the Skill Up kind of review of the beta, except his whole diatribe about the microtransactions, I really felt like he really talked about the issues with the game. I think that ACG's review is perfect, though. If you look up ACG Breakpoint review on YouTube, he talks about the microtransactions, but he doesn't really blow them out of proportion. He just kind of talks about what they are, and I really think that he did a pretty fair job of it. Because honestly, on the list of things I have an issue with Breakpoint is the microtransactions are like 20th. Things I find just way worse are still this is goofy gear system they put in with the gear score and stuff, where Ghost Recon just didn't need that. No one was asking for that. With leveled enemies and leveled guns and, a beanie hat that has more protective value than a ballistic helmet, It's just, no one wanted that from Ghost Recon. And I want to say it surprises me that they put it in, But, they did it with Assassin's Creed, which, full disclosure, I think it was perfect. Assassin's Creed handles the system so well. And then they did it with Far Cry. And when they did Far Cry New Dawn, and it had a system of like an RPG, not really a looter shooter, but this like, leveled enemies and guns and gear thing, I kind of squinted my eyes and I was like, this feels awful. Like Far Cry 5 was so good at what Far Cry 5 is. Far Cry is a very specific type of game, and Far Cry 5 was so that game. And I loved it. But then you play New Dawn and you're just like, what bizarro world am I in right now? Like, what is going on? And then when I saw Breakpoint get announced, I was genuinely really excited. I'm not a big fan of Wildlands. I've said a lot of this stuff before, but I think it needs to be said again. When I saw Breakpoint get announced, I was like, damn, this looks cool. All these survival elements they were showing, the healing with bandages and all this. And what's so funny to me is that I still don't think any of their official marketing talks about the leveled guns, gear, and enemies. I'm pretty sure, at least nothing I've seen. So it's like they knew it wasn't going to be popular. And they're still just trying to be like, oh, well, but it's still one-shot headshots. Don't worry about it. Which is a whole different problem I've talked about before. And so I won't go deep into it. But the whole idea of still having one-shot headshots no matter what your gear defeats the entire purpose of having a gear system. It just makes no sense. But I just really think it's a bummer to see, people who, I've seen people disassociate from me in the Division community who, don't like how critical I've been of Breakpoint. I've been critical of Division 2. I just think Breakpoint has way more to be critical about. It has a lot to do with the fact that Ghost Recon is an almost 20-year-old franchise that is a complete ghost of itself, no pun intended. Where the Division is only, 4 years old, if not even that yet, and is still kind of figuring out its identity. And Ghost Recon, my favorite Ghost Recon game is Future Soldier, or the first one. And what I understand about that is that it's kind of blasphemy, because people who love Ghost Recon would say that Future Soldier is what led us to Wildlands, which maybe it did, and Breakpoint now. But the thing that I would say is that I actually believe that the Division is the most natural successor to Future Soldier and the old Ghost Recon games than Wildlands or Breakpoint ever will be. To me, Wildlands and Breakpoint literally feel like a new franchise that they decide to just recycle a name onto. I believe if Wildlands and Breakpoint had a different franchise name on them, they'd be way more successful, way more accepted, because they would just be this other thing. But they aren't, and I doubt that's going to change. So, I don't know. I played a good amount of it. I want to say I played, of the tech alpha, the closed and open beta, probably 30-ish hours. I don't know how far along I am in the final release. I want to say 10 to 15 hours. But I'm just probably not going to play anymore. The AI is just boring to fight against. The story is just atrocious. It's so boring and generic. On top of the actual gameplay, just, there's definitely moments where you feel so cool. You wipe out a bunch of these enemies with headshots, and then they finally get alerted, but there's only like 2 of them left. So, that is a fun feeling. Until you realize that you're supposed to be fighting, the most elite, fighters in the game of these wolves, and you take out an entire base of them, almost without trying. And it's not even a difficulty thing. It's all the difficulty does in Ghost Recon is just make enemies hit harder and see further away. It doesn't make them take cover better. It doesn't make them communicate with each other better or coordinate. The AI is just bad in Breakpoint. And it's another game where a big comment I've seen is, well, it's a lot of fun with a group. And the problem with that is that almost basically you could have stick figures in a game where all you do is pick up sticks, and it'd be more fun with a group than by yourself. like the whole like a game is better in a group excuse tends to just be a really good sign that a game is actually just not very good. And so, I really, I'll say that while I'm frustrated with it, I really respect how the fanboys and girls of this game are. I thought that I was a fanboy of a game in the Division, and I thought I've dealt with other people who are. But the dedication and just the pure veracity of the fanhood of the Ghost Recon community, albeit pretty small it seems, that this is a good game, and there is no relenting in some of the things I really believe are just clearly bad. And unfortunately, that was most prominent in this Delta Company group that I did get accepted into, which I really appreciated. I actually was kind of surprised I got accepted. I was pretty negative about Breakpoint in the lead up to it, but they still gave me a spot in Delta Company, and I fully appreciate it. They gave me a free copy of the game, which I super appreciated. I believe my NDA says that I can't reveal specific details. So I guess all I'll say is that I was under the impression that there was an opportunity and that there was some intent for that group to give honest feedback about the game. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of the people in the game just want to really like it. And it doesn't, and the feedback seems kind of secondary. So I've left the Delta Company Discord, and I assume that means I've left Delta Company. I don't know if I need to officially leave or anything, but I don't have any desire to associate with that group at this point, and I don't know if I'm gonna play any more Breakpoint. I may dabble here and there. I'm not coming back for the Terminator fight, which I think is just such a hilarious summary of where that game has gone. That now you fight a Terminator because reasons. Yeah, I don't know. It's goofy, but if you're enjoying the game, that's awesome. I think that's really cool. I just hope that even people who like the game are still willing to be like, yeah, I'm having fun with this, but that's a really important thing to do. If I learned anything being a quote unquote creator for the Division and a super fan and fanboy or whatever, it's that the first year or so I was involved in the community and was probably a little too forgiving about stuff. I definitely feel like, especially once I got to know some devs and stuff like that, definitely learned that even the devs don't want to have their asses kissed. At least not the ones I've interacted with. Even the CMs of the Division, I feel like, are really friendly to criticism, or at least willing to hear it out. And the devs I have spoken to specifically don't just want their asses kissed all the time. They want, they want actual criticism, not people just being dickheads, but actual criticism. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of that from a lot of the people in the Breakpoint community who are being celebrated. I'm seeing a lot of slaps on the back. So cool for that game if you're enjoying it. Honestly, super happy for you. Not my jam. Okay, and so the second topic here is something I feel like we need to talk about here and there, but do other stuff and play other games. I keep seeing people talk about this whole idea that it seems like there's a lot of people who still think the Division is a game that you're going to know life and only play that forever, 24/7. It's not there. There's not many games like that. Even Destiny 2. I know that's like the perfect game. It's the looter shooter premier cream of the crop right now. But when they have lulls in their content, people still complain. So even games that are doing it really well still aren't perfect. And like for me, like I still main Division. That's still my main game. But I play other stuff. I'm really excited about Call of Duty coming out. Obviously, my opinion on Breakpoint, unfortunately, that's not going to be a game that's going to entertain me, but but that's fine. But I've even been playing some like indie games and trying to just play some different types of stuff, not just shooters, especially not looter shooters. I tried to get back into Destiny, not my thing. But people need to stop putting all of their marbles into one bucket. You know, the Division 1 never was a game that you should be maining. And as someone who did for a while, I shouldn't have been. It nearly caused me to burn out on the game, and it shouldn't have. It's just, there's never been any indication in the first game or the second game that they're trying to put out content on a level where they are expecting people to play 24/7. The only games that do that, I would say, are like Fortnite. Not even PUBG or Destiny, or I mean, even these other big games. Fortnite's literally the only game I can think of, and on the back end of that, it's also the devs that you hear have the most issue with burnout and being overworked and stuff. So, if I have a little bit of a last bit of advice with this whole thing, is just that stop complain if you feel like it's worthy. Be reasonable. Expect a lot, but maybe realize that you're wanting something that a game like The Division isn't. And that it's never tried to be. It's something I've tried to handle, and it's something I think maybe it would help out a whole lot of people. There's that. Okay, we have 3 listener questions. The first one is from Patron DJ. They ask, I'd like to hear your opinion on an idea for the crafting system that could fix the loot system, turn gear and weapon talents into crafting materials the same way gear gets destructed in the brand names. So, back when the game came out, I remember people having a desire to have like the ability to rip a talent from gear or guns and store it, and then be able to reapply it, rather than keeping the gun in your stash, which is, that's what, if you look at my stash is a bunch of weapons that I know will never be meta, but I just think they're cool. And then all named weapons I can think of. And then all the gear is just gear that has like a really good assault rifle damage, or a really good skill, skill regen or whatever. So I think that'd be great. I think you run into a weird situation where you have to try to limit it somehow so people, I guess, I don't know. At the end of the day, it really isn't any different than what we currently have, except instead of taking up stash spots, it would just go into some type of currency inventory. So I think that's cool. I'd be down for that. I think that's something that'd be really useful, because half the gear in my stash is like 473 gear, because I'm just letting it sit there until I have a build I like and I want to replace talents or attributes with ones that I've just stored. So I think that's a really great idea. Short Sight had the second one here. They ask, what have you not done that you really want to? What is the biggest non-baby diesel, non-family starting risk you have taken? Not 100% sure what we're saying here. But something I've not done that I really wanted to. I really want to travel overseas. I've never done that. Probably like to find a new house for the family. We actually have a nice house, but it's just not like what we've been here for a few years now and realize it's just not the type of house we want. So I'd like that. I don't know. I'm pretty easy to please. I don't have a lot of really like crazy aspirations that I haven't already done or I don't think are immediately possible. So I have to admit you've stumped me a bit. I'm not really sure. Then you had another question for Lady Bond, or Bay Diesel. What foreign language would you be more impressed if Mr. Bond took up? Um, well, she's Polish, so that. Because then all the times that she's told me what Polish words are, I could tell her that she's wrong and just making it up. And then the last question is from Hassan. He says, after watching today's State of the Game, I'm extremely let down by the content. 2 missions with probably a total of 30-45 minutes is not a major content. To be honest, it's laughable. My question is, how can they redeem themselves? I mean, I don't think they need to, like, redeem themselves. It's not like they got caught, like, flashing their genitals at a coworker or something. It's something I talked about on stream a little bit, and that I guess, like, I'm 31, so, like, growing up until I was, like, in college, video games were a disc or a cartridge that they released, and that was just it. There was never an update. There were no live games, sort of. World of Warcraft, I believe, did come out when I was in high school, but that was kind of a unique thing at the time. So I guess my mindset about video games, even today, even with live service games, is that the developers are kind of like a band, and they put together, 12 songs, and they release it because they like them. They think they're songs that represent what they were going for. They like what they hope that their fans like. And then we get their CD and we consume it, and either we like it or we don't. And I understand in today's, like, gaming world, we, it kind of feels like every individual expects the game to be designed for them to like it. But to me, that's kind of like expecting a band to, like, say they release a CD and their fans don't like it. It's like them taking it, okay, hey, we'll fix the CD and we'll make sure that every single person who listens to it enjoys it in one way or the other. And that's, like, impossible, right? So I think this idea of, like, asking them to redeem themselves, like they've dishonored themselves, I mean, they're putting out a game that they enjoy. They're doing as much as they can, as quickly as they can. Here's my White Knight helmet on. I highly suspect a lot of the issues that we have with with this content drop, I bet a bunch of people that work on it share the idea. I also think that you can't really narrow down the entire update to the 2 missions. Should the Pentagon be more than just 2 missions? Yeah, for sure, right? I'm not going to complain about those 2 missions. I'm excited to play them. But to act like the update is only those 2 missions is really selling this update pretty short. Especially because I believe from the PTS, it seems like there's stuff that may not be out to, like, on the 15th, that maybe is coming after that, but before episode 3. But even just with all the changes that are happening in the game, I mean, I'm not going to argue that this is, like, a perfect release or anything like that. It's absolutely not. But I just don't like the idea of being extremely let down. Like, I mean, I'm bummed. I wish there was something more interesting happening. But at the same time, I mean, it's whatever. I'm gonna play what they put out, and then I'll wait for the next thing. Like, I guess I just don't feel like they need to, like, redeem themselves. I don't think it's laughable. I don't think that all these guys' hard work and doing the best they can in the time frames they have is funny. I just I don't know. I just have a different take on it. I wish it was better, but I still don't think it's bad. It's like episode 1. Yeah, the expeditions were kind of a letdown, but that was a good update. I enjoyed the update. I enjoyed the things it brought. And there's way more things in this title update 6 and episode 2 that I think I'm going to enjoy. As a whole, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to kind of set the game up for the long run better than it was, with some new stuff sprinkled in. I do think this update, I think I said it before, is missing that real punch, that like, this is the best feature of this update. It's just going to be kind of a lot of, oh yeah, this is cool, without being, blowing anyone away, which is understandable if that's not what you expected or wanted. But I kind of think that after episode 1, there had to be some maybe pulling back of expectations. But maybe that was just me. I don't expect other people to think the way I do. And thank all three of you for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask them on YouTube, in my Discord, on my Twitter. I try to make a bunch of places available to ask, so check out any of my social media, and there should be a place for you to ask. Some content and personal updates. The little one and the wifey are doing really well. No big updates there. On Monday, I did put out a quick video. I think it was Monday. Guessing what the Pentagon thing was going to be. I basically was wrong. So if you want to go see that video and laugh at me in hindsight, check out my YouTube. It's just Bond Diesel on there. I do plan, I will hopefully stream on Thursday. I'm going to try to stream on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well, since I've been a little bit lackadaisical with that lately. And maybe, I don't know, we'll do a giveaway. I don't really know what to give away. So if there's anything you can think of, that'd be kind of cool. I'd like to try to give away like Division-related stuff, so it's people who are actually like fans of my content or what my content is based on, getting into the giveaway. I've given away like headphones and I think like gift cards before, which is just really lame. You're just trying to get some followers when you do that. I'm kind of out of that game at this point. I could kind of care less. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I'd be happy to oblige. And that's what we have this week. So if you want to support the podcast or my other content, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/theechocast. If you're on iTunes or any other podcast website that lets you rate the podcast, please rate it. Leave me a good review. Let the people know what they can get. I am Bond Diesel on Twitch, where I try to stream a few times a week. I'm also Bond Diesel on Twitter, where you can catch my random thoughts, my state of the game live tweets, and the occasional foot in my mouth. And that's all I have. So, until next time.